History has many examples of long-distance trade, but among the most striking is the trade on the ancient Silk Roads. Over 2,000 years ago, a network of caravan trails connected Asia and Europe. Along these fabled Silk Roads, trade flourished on and off from the 100s BC to the 1300s. One of the main routes began here in China, at Chang'an. The route headed west, skirting the vast Taklamakan Desert. After passing through Kashgar, the trail went through the rugged Pamir Mountains. From there, it continued west, crossing the Tigris River, and ending here in Antioch, near the Mediterranean Sea. Along this route flowed an amazing variety of goods. Here in the great marketplace at Kashgar, you could find tea from China, lapis lazuli from Central Asia, spices from India, colorful dyes from Persia, and especially silk and horses. The Chinese made fabric by unreeling strands of silk from the cocoons of silkworms and then weaving the strands together. For hundreds of years, the Chinese kept this process a closely guarded secret. Of all the goods traded along the Silk Roads, silk was the most prized. Customers were willing to pay dearly for it. Wealthy Romans paid as much as a pound of gold for every pound of silk. The Chinese, however, had a different obsession. In Central Asia, they found wonderful horses, capable of galloping for days. Horses that would help them defeat their enemies. Eventually, the Chinese were trading 1 million bolts of silk for 100,000 horses every year. Merchants who sold such valuable goods along the Silk Roads could get rich. The Arab historian Ibn Khaldun explained the logic of long-distance trade.
It is more profitable if the merchant brings goods from a country that is far away and where there is danger on the road. In such a case, there are few who would bring the goods, and their prices go up.
As for danger on the road, the Silk Roads had plenty. In China, the caravans traveled along the edge of the Taklamakan Desert. Its name means, if you go in, you won't come out. The Buddhist monk Faxian described its perils.
In this desert are many evil demons and hot winds. There are no flying birds above, no roaming beasts below. It would be impossible to know the way, but for dead men's decaying bones.
The routes also crossed some of the highest mountains in the world. Passes in the Pamirs are over 14,000 feet high. Rock slides and altitude sickness were ever-present threats. In times of relative peace, when strong empires brought greater security to the routes, trade flourished. Such a time occurred about 2,000 years ago when 3 empires ruled: the Roman, the Parthian, and the Han. Silk Road trade brought wealth to these empires, but it also brought competition and conflict. The Parthians barred the Romans and the Han Chinese from crossing their territory. They wanted to maintain their lucrative role as middlemen. Long after these empires crumbled, competition over trade continued on the Silk Roads. In the 6th century, the Byzantine Emperor Justinian persuaded 2 monks to go to China and bring back the secret of silk making. The monks smuggled the secret back to the West by hiding silkworms inside bamboo walking sticks. Other products, ideas, and inventions also traveled between Europe and Asia by way of the Silk Roads and changed history. In the 1st century AD, Buddhist monks journeyed from India into Western China. Their religious zeal soon won them many converts. Buddhist communities sprang up in China's cities and Buddhist art flourished. Entertainment also traveled the routes. Jugglers and acrobats from Roman Syria so captivated the Chinese that they began a tradition of acrobatics that continues today. Gunpowder, a Chinese invention. Historians speculate that 13th century European travelers may have returned from China with the formula.
Using a magical powder that bursts, in which they place in a tube of iron, The Chinese can throw a swift and flying fire to a great distance and to the great harm of a foe.
History shows that when there's interest in foreign goods and profits to be made, long-distance trade can thrive. And with this trade, ideas as well as goods are introduced to new places. It's a pattern that continues today.